Joining us right now is David Nixon, former BYU and NFL linebacker. David, let's start with today's Twitter question. What do you expect a senior quarterback Taysom Hill-led BYU offense to do against Nebraska in the season opener?
Just enough to win the game. I think in the red zone, I think they go 3 for 4 touchdowns, and then I think there are a couple extra field goals to put this thing 27 to 21. I think BYU squeaks this one out. I'm just going straight out of the gates with the prediction. There it is, right there.
27-21. David Nixon, BYU over Nebraska.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm confident, like you, that BYU can go in and win this game on the road. What are some of the ideas that lend you to think that way?
You know, I think the biggest thing, you've got a senior quarterback in Taysom Hill, which is obviously crucial and huge. I mean, there's nothing more important than having a guy at the helm, especially on the road. When you're starting the road, you've got to have a guy that has a command of the offense, that the rest of the team's not worried, hey, this guy going to be able to produce when it comes down to pressure. Of course, he can do it out on the practice field. But when it comes down to being, on the field, on the road, can he produce? And I think, the team will rally around that. Beyond that, looking at this fall camp, it's been spectacular. I've watched both sides. Both sides have each had their days, right? Offense one day scoring touchdowns all over the defense. Defense comes back the next day. They have some picks. They have some stops. And you've seen different guys emerge. And you've really seen that depth build at each position to where, Taysom mentioned just a few days ago that he's never seen a team more unified, a team kind of with one purpose and with one goal, ready to go at it. And I think that's evident. The way they've had their fall camp, Coach Mendenhall even praised the team himself, saying this is one of the better fall camps we've had in a long time. So, I think all that just kind of keeps that momentum going into this week with game day on Saturday.
Dave, in 2006, your sophomore year, you opened the season against a Power 5 team at Arizona. Now, as we just discussed, BYU's 5-1 in their last 6 openers with the senior quarterback in the last 20 years. Now, that one loss was at Arizona, the game I just referenced. What's the most difficult part about opening a season on the road?
It's just tough. So your first game is always a kind of a shaky game, but then you open on the road, and then it becomes even tougher. But then you open on the road against a P5 school that has, for this week, 90,000 people there. It makes even, that much more tough. So there's no question the environment and everything around it's difficult to deal with. But once again, a senior quarterback is invaluable. I mean, you can't put a price tag on it. It is so valuable, and knowing the offense. And here's the thing with this BYU offense is great. They're so used to hand signals and the boards they put up that's how they communicate. And so the crowd noise really shouldn't get to this BYU offense. Typically you have in your pro-style offense where the quarterback's underneath the center, where you're breaking out of a huddle. There's some communication going on. But with the way the BYU offense runs and the go fast, go hard, but with hand signals, it really lends to being able to play in this type of environment and excel at it. So I think this offense should be fine. The big question mark obviously is the running backs. Who's going to be able to produce there? I personally believe BYU will come out, and I think they'll air it out, and I think they'll hand the ball off to AUG, get some good quality yards on first down, second down. But then he's got so many weapons with Nick Kurtz, Juergens, of course Mitch Matthews. Devon Blackman will get, hopefully get some playing time in there. That you've got a lot of weapons to distribute the ball around to, and I think that we've kind of punch them in the mouth and get them on their heels and kind of air it out. And then of course Taysom will probably do his own thing and rush for over 100 yards just at ease. So I think the biggest thing though is moving the ball. I mean, you look back to last year, BYU was 37th in the country on third down conversion percentage. They've got to be better, especially when you're on the road against Nebraska, because that first game of the year, you can't have your defense out there all game getting tired, because a guy like Tommy Armstrong, quarterback for Nebraska, he'll wear down that defense if he has enough time.
BYU football linebacker and former NFL linebacker David Nixon with us on BYU Sports Nation. Dave, you brought up the big stage, and I've heard some people say Taysom Hill's not ready for Nebraska. He's not ready for a stage like Lincoln Memorial on opening day. I disagree, because he's played at Wisconsin. He's played at Texas. He's played at Notre Dame. So I don't think this is anything new for Taysom Hill playing in a big-time environment. Should I be more concerned about that?
No, I think you're right. I think you're right, exactly. You look at these guys. I mean, BYU traditionally used to playing at New Mexico and at Laramie, and so playing in these environments, I think it only makes the guys prepare that much more. I remember when we went and played, like you said, in 2006 at Arizona and at Boston College. Unfortunately, both losses, but I do remember the preparation is different because you realize this is a national stage. I mean, BYU playing on primetime television this week, and so as a player, you do put some extra emphasis into it, knowing kind of what's at stake. And so I think Taysom's ready. Like you said, he's excelled on these biggest stages with Texas, and you saw what he did there, and he's obviously a stellar athlete. So I think he'll have this offense going, and I think they'll be able to move the ball, but they've got to do it consistently. They can't have spurts where they have a good drive and then they go a couple series of 3 and outs. They've got to do it consistently throughout the game to make sure that momentum stays with them and they can produce some points.
And I'd have to look this up, but I believe that Taysom Hill has played in more games against Power 5 teams than any other quarterback in BYU history. It's 9. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone that has more. And if it's not Taysom, he'll become that guy pretty quickly. Let's take us to the mind of a defense player on BYU's team. You've got a senior quarterback. For example, you went into that Arizona game. You were a sophomore off your mission, but you went into that Arizona game, and you had a senior quarterback in John Beck. What kind of difference does that make for the defense?
Everything, because you're not worried the defense saying, hey, we're going to have to go out here and win this game. You're not saying we got a freshman quarterback where defensively we have to play in a perfect game in order to have a chance in this game. It's actually the exact opposite. You're saying, look, we've got a guy who's going to put up points. We got to make sure we do our job and do enough to get this win. So it takes a lot of pressure off the defense because, believe me, there were times where we did have to worry about, where we're going to be able to, stop the team to be able to get the ball back in our offensive hands so they could hopefully score some points. But having a senior guy, and on top of that, just the emotional leader that he is for this team, I mean, is huge. You talked about last year when he went down to injury. You heard from all the players. It was a tough week or two to get that adjustment to move on from it because he was such a vocal guy and he was a great leader on the field by just his example and the way he goes about playing. So senior quarterback's huge. I mean, the good thing too is you realize as a defense, hey, this guy's seen everything. Taysom's seen every defense. He's seen basically every blitz thrown at him. I mean, we have confidence in this guy that there's not going to be anything Nebraska's going to bring out of the package that he hasn't seen. He knows how to study film. He knows how to prepare. And so you can kind of rest easy a little bit as a defense knowing that our offense should be in good hands.
David Nixon with us on BYU Sports Nation. Dave, when you talk about the mentality change from fall camp to an actual game week, what really happens? What goes on in the mind of a player when they go from offense versus defense in fall camp now to, hey, let's get ready for Nebraska?
Oh, man, there's nothing more refreshing than all of a sudden switching your mindset from watching the BYU offense and how you're playing against them to all of a sudden looking at personnel and looking at schemes that this Nebraska team is going to run. I mean, it is by far the best feeling ever. And, it's an exciting time, too, because now you're not watching BYU, but you're watching actual film. In the past, you're watching just practice film, which gets pretty boring after a while. But now you're watching game film and watching personnel and watching tendencies. Because to be honest, you're not really watching tendencies of your own BYU offensive line during fall camp. I mean, you're more worried about yourself and the defense and how you're gelling together and if you're running the perfect scheme. But now you can start honing in and really studying these guys. Once again, first week's always tough because you have different personnel. Maybe certain linemen are kind of shifting around for the opposing team or for the offense, different corners or whatever it may be. But all in all, it's a great feeling, and it's good because you now know, look, that fall camp 3-4 weeks is behind us, and now it's game week. It's ready to go, we're ready to go, and it's time to go. And it's a great feeling, kind of putting that behind you, and now knowing the season's here and it's time to go out there and play ball.
David, what do we know about this BYU defense going into the Nebraska game?
Well, we know the front seven is dynamic, and I think obviously the depth there continues to grow week in, week out, especially amongst the linebackers. We see guys shuffling in and out, mixing with different combinations. So I'm confident this BYU defense with the front seven is going to be stout come Nebraska, which is perfect because you've got a kind of more inexperienced secondary that's going to need the help with that front seven to put some pressure on the quarterback, on Tommy Armstrong. And when I say pressure, it's not necessarily sacks, but more just getting their hands up, getting in his face, making him uncomfortable because a quarterback like Armstrong that's not a true pocket quarterback. He likes to be out and about. So if you can contain him and make him feel uncomfortable in that pocket, then it gives your young and inexperienced secondary a chance to break on balls and be more confident with themselves. So I really expect Bronco to put some pressure, and we've heard in the media, both Coach Riley and Tommy Armstrong mentioning that BYU does a great job of bringing blitzes. That's kind of what BYU is known for. Is Bronco Mendenhall brings lots of blitzes from lots of different areas of the field, and so you can already tell they're almost in the mind of the quarterback already, which is a good start. But I expect BYU and Coach Mendenhall now with the helm of the defense to bring a lot of pressure to help relieve the pressure off that secondary. But even then, I expect that secondary, especially with Coach Howell now having his complete time to devote to them, I expect them to come out there and be very assignment sound with their eyes and with their technique to be able to play well and not let any big bombs get behind them.
All right, David, quickly, and maybe you've already answered this. In what aspect of the BYU defense do you have the most confidence?
Bronco Mendenhall. And most people are probably looking for players or a position, but the most confidence I have is Bronco that he'll have a perfect scheme and game plan ready for these guys. I mean, the good thing with this defense is they've been playing against Taysom all fall camp. I guess if there's one positive about going against your own offense all the time, is they're basically facing a Tommy Armstrong every day in fall camp, and so they'll be familiar with a running quarterback that's very lethal with his legs. But, I think Bronco, I have confidence in him because I know he can put a game plan together, a scheme together that is tailored to these type of offenses. And I think he'll have the guys ready, and I think you'll see that defense, even though you got young corners and young secondary, we saw glimpses of greatness from last year. And I think they'll be that much better now with the fall camp, spring ball underneath their belts, that they'll come out there and play lights out.
You can watch David Nixon on After Further Review and Countdown to Kickoff this week. Both original programs from BYU TV Sports. David, great stuff. Thanks, man.
All right, guys. Take care.